Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 4 In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Koshka sniper rifle, and I hope that I'm saying that word correctly. I'm sure that about 15 Russians are going to pile out of the comments anytime now to tell me that I'm doing it wrong. And Koshka in Russian means cat. Now, I do want to preface this episode by saying that sniping got a lot more complex this year, because for the first time ever we have projectile bullets in Call of Duty, and not just in multiplayer, we also have them in Blackout. Blackout sniping is a whole different beast unto itself. There's armor at play and up to 200 HP, so there's a lot of different configurations to go through on if you'll get a one-shot kill or not. The base damage on the Koshka, if you just hit the body and don't get any additional multipliers, which is pretty much like leg and hand hits, that's 140, which is still very, very high. Now, at this point, I want to start talking about the one-shot kill areas, and there's a lot of combinations, so bear with me. The base Koshka, no attachments versus a regular enemy, will get a one-shot kill in the head, neck, or the upper chest region. And I define upper chest as about pectoral muscles and up. There's 3 different chest regions this year, and the first one is pecs and up. You got to shoot them in the boobs. If you're using the Koshka versus an armored user, the one-shot kill areas are still the same. Armor doesn't seem to stop the one-shot kill to the upper chest, which is nice. However, if you're versing somebody that has 200 HP, the upper chest won't get the one-shot kill. You can still kill them in the head or neck, but the upper chest won't get the one-shot kill, and I do want to point out this is kind of a weird result because armor should reduce damage in half, yet with 50 more HP, it's not getting the one-shot kill, whereas with armor it was, which I find very strange, and I'm assuming that armor works differently for sniper rifles in this game. When you put high caliber on the Koshka, that increases the multipliers on several areas of the body, and it will now one-shot kill into the head, neck, upper chest, and torso. Torso is probably best defined as the area between the pectoral muscle and down about to the belly button, so the guts is a good way to say it. If you are running high caliber versus an armored user, the one-shot kill areas are identical, the head, neck, and upper chest and torso. It doesn't seem to matter at all whether the enemy is using armor or not. However, when you run into one-shot kill areas versus a 200 hit point enemy, it's identical to the armor. Still head, neck, upper chest, and torso. More or less the same all the way through. Yet, you could also run into an enemy that has armor and 200 hit points, which would be kind of ridiculous. And in this case, you're only going to get one-shot kills to the head and to the neck. So, 200 HP is definitely not your friend here. And one thing that is your friend is please remember that FMJ completely negates the effect of armor. If you don't like running high cal or whatever, or if you're really worried about armored users, which you shouldn't be in this case because armor doesn't seem to matter very much, just run FMJ. Crash will really mess up your one-shot kills if you're not running high caliber, and if you are running high caliber, it'll mess up your one-shot kills versus armored users. So the 200 HP with Crash is definitely the bigger threat than the armor in this equation. And now that all of those weird combinations are out of the way, let's move on to some other stats about the Koshka. Rate of fire is 47 rounds per minute. This is bolt action, so you can't just sprint off. You really do need to recock that bolt and rechamber around. The rate of fire is pretty normal for sniper rifles, maybe a little bit on the slower side, but sniper rifles in Call of Duty games are usually about 60 RPM plus or minus 15, and this one's pretty well within that range, so it should have a normal Call of Duty-ish feeling sniper rifle feel to it. The aim down sights time has a couple of different versions. The base aim down sights time I measured at 320 milliseconds, which is pretty good for a Call of Duty game, pretty comfortable feel. When you put quick draw on, it'll go down to 275 milliseconds, which is a significant improvement, and it's an improvement that you will feel in game. Quick draw 2 lowers that a little bit more down to 250 milliseconds, and you'll still feel it, but perhaps not as much. And you can, as you can tell here, the economy for attachments or whatever is very heavily skewed toward Quick Draw 1, and I dislike the field of view change that comes with Quick Draw 2. Quick Draw 2 also gives you a different field of view when you aim down sights, more peripheral vision. I find it makes it harder for me to actually hit my targets, and the peripheral vision doesn't really save me very much, so I don't like Quick Draw 2. I know some people love it, I personally don't. Reload time is a little bit slow, well, compared to rifles and SMGs, more accurately, it's pretty normal for snipers at 2.07 seconds. And if you're on fast mags on there, you're almost cutting it half at 1.18 seconds. So fast mags is a very nice attachment on the Koshka, very, very beneficial to you because the magazine size isn't very big. Thankfully, unlike Blackout, the weapon comes with a default sniper scope for multiplayer, and I kind of like the look of the default sniper scope. Most people don't, they have a very different opinion, but I have a very easy time using it. I like the little triangle dot. However, I do have to admit that ELO and the 2X are definitely the best for multiplayer. I like the lower zoom sights. I really don't like the iron sights unless I have to use them, but the lower zoom sights are going to be way better for multiplayer, because multiplayer Black Ops 4, like most Call of Duty games, is mostly a close quarters game, and you don't get a lot of opportunities to properly utilize the long-range scope to snipe people with. Not the case for Blackout, which we'll talk about later, but multiplayer is all about those up close. Hipfire is very doable with laser sight 2 as a caveat. So on the screen right now you can see laser sight 1 going on, and when we swap over, you'll notice that with laser sight 2, it has no penalty for moving around, which is super nice, and that allows you to get very accurate hipfire shots in. I have ran into people using this strategy. I did it a little bit myself, but I don't think it's the overall best. I mean, you can do it, and that's sort of my rating for it. Like, it's theoretically possible. Generally wouldn't recommend it. One thing I would recommend is the stock. The stock is helpful for corner peeking and maybe a little bit for overall weapon feel. Gives you a little bit more strafe speed so that you can peek around the corners. It's very noticeable in multiplayer, and I personally use it not for the corner peeking, but just because it gives me a little bit more ability to aim with my left stick to kind of do a little strafe aiming, get my shots on a little point, and has an overall good feel. I know they try not to get too subjective here, but it does feel good. No in-depth in Black Ops 4 would be complete without talking about the Operator mod. The Operator mod for the Koshka is the Strelok. Oh, man, I hope I'm saying that right. And it essentially removes the quickscope penalty or quickscope inaccuracy for the weapon and reverts it back to a Modern Warfare 2 style quickscoping sniper rifle. And it's described as having precision aim as you aim down sights. Perhaps a different way to say it would be in Call of Duty games, if you shoot while you're aiming down sights, your bullets will kind of go all crazy and sideways. You have to wait till you're fully ADS'd, at least on sniper rifles. This one moves it back to the older Call of Duty method, where your hipfire would tighten as you aim down sights, and when you pull the trigger, your bullet's going to be somewhere inside that tight hipfire box instead of just going sideways or some sort of crazy direction. I personally don't use this a whole lot because I'm not very good at quickscoping. That's not my skill set, but you can use it, and if you are a very good quickscoper, it's probably going to be the weapon for you. And these do stack very effectively with other attachments. It stacks with quick draw, it stacks with laser sight if you just want to have a really tight hipfire to begin with. You can run a lot of attachments on top of the Operator mod and make the Operator mod more effective with them. When it comes to the Koshka, I think this is my overall favorite sniper rifle for multiplayer, which is going to sound crazy because I don't believe that it's a popular weapon outside the quickscoping community. I don't think people really like it very much, but I do because it's a nice balance of mobility and one-shot kill areas. It does require a lot of attachments though. So the Koshka has very good mobility, perhaps similar mobility to the Outlaw, but much better one-shot kill areas. And it doesn't one-shot kill as good as the Paladin, but it's a lot more mobile than the Paladin, which I also value. The only real downside I see to the weapon is that you have to put a bunch of attachments on it to really get the value out of it. You got to put on like Quick Draw 1 or 2, or Laser Sight 1 and 2, and then the Strelok, and then some optics, and then fast mags, and then the high caliber FMJ. You want to run this gun with all of the attachments, but you just can't. You have to kind of pick and choose just a few to run with, but it's a very attachment heavy weapon. My personal preferred way to use this weapon is with low zoom optics, Quick Draw 1, fast mags, stock, and of course high caliber. This setup allows me to use the weapon more effectively with the lower zoom optics, so I don't kind of zoom past people or not be able to ADS onto them. I get the most economy for my points on Quick Draw 1, fast mags because, well, reloading is slow, stock for overall feel and a little bit of corner peeking, and high caliber so that I can get some more one-shot kill areas. Moving along to Blackout. The sniping in Blackout is a totally different beast, and it's continually in flux with pre and post armor updates and how much resistance the level 3 has and how much durability it has and how much damage the snipers are doing. The Blackout's just getting a lot of changes. I play Blackout more than anything though, so I can say that the Koshka is probably the worst overall sniper rifle in Blackout, but it's still not bad. It's not a bad gun to have. Its problem is that the Koshka has no niche in Blackout due to having a lower one-shot kill potential than the Paladin, but it's less spammy than the SDM or the Outlaw. Now, it does more damage than the SDM and Outlaw, but it doesn't really compete with the Paladin if you're going to go it for long range. And if you wanted to just spam somebody in the ground, you could get the Augur, the SDM, or the Outlaw and do it really, really quick. The Koshka is pretty quick, but it's not quite so fast. It doesn't have a good niche that it fits in, kind of like multiplayer. It's got a decent overall balance to it, but it's not a really specialized weapon in any capacity. That being said, I do think it's worth picking up. You can definitely do a lot of damage getting long-range hits on people, headshotting people, wearing them down. Sniping is kind of weird in Blackout in that 50 caliber bullets don't kill people in one shot, which is crazy. But it is not a bad weapon. It is definitely a worthy pickup, and I kind of like using it in Blackout just like I do in multiplayer just for the sight. I find the sight on the Koshka to be very easy to use, very easy to line up, nice little clear mill dots, and it helps me aim better, which is better for my overall performance, which I typically have good performance with it despite it not being the best weapon in the game. Guys, that is all for this in-depth episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.